Limitless, episode 18. We begin in Russia. Brian pays off a Russian to find Piper. The Russian offers Brian a shot and says it's not polite to refuse a drink. Four shots later, and Brian is spilling his guts. Three more shots in, and Brian is telling the Russians about NZT. Two more shots, and Finch is telling the bartender everything. The original Russian tells Brian, "Congratulations, your friend isn't dead or a sex slave. She's only in prison," which is really entertaining because, well, Brian being drunk, all this whole opening bit is just fun and funny, which is a great contrast to how much of a downer the prior episode was with everybody abandoning Brian and him running away. Upon this reveal that Piper is in prison, I ask myself, is this a Prison Break episode? That was a fun show, Prison Break, and I mean other shows have had fun episodes of Prison Break. Scorpion, for instance, had a really good Prison Break episode. Brian, who's limited on his supply of NZT because he ran away from the FBI, and they took almost all of his backup, imagines all of these different scenarios, and none of them are really going particularly well. That is until Brian realizes Russia is corruptible. Now we are back in America at the FBI, and they have no idea where Brian is. Naz is mad, and she says that she wants Finch home safe so she can shoot him herself. Mike and Ike are telling Rebecca about the cover story Brian told Rachel, where he lied and said Sands was an undercover agent. Back over to Russia, Brian is using the love of Game of Thrones against a bigwig in the Russian prison system. Oh my goodness, this show just gets me. It's just so funny about how they use such simple things like a guy's love for a book series to then use that for a character to break another character out of prison. I just can't believe that this crazy plan worked. Brian is back with Piper, and she is super emotional. But this is Limitless, so of course, even though Brian broke Piper out of prison, they can't leave Russia because what she needs to make the enzyme that blocks the NZT's side effects is here in Russia. And so we're staying in Russia. It's not a Prison Break episode, but it is a heist episode where Brian and Piper use Piper's last couple of NZT pills to plan out how to get a plant from this super rich Russian dude. The same one that Piper failed to get this from, which landed her in prison, which doesn't bode well for this time around. Thankfully, Brian and Piper don't immediately just jump into trying to steal it again. They spend a week planning things out. But the reason it takes a whole week is because Piper only has 3 NZT pills, and so they don't want to use them. So they're planning as just themselves, not, as Piper puts it, their best selves or something like that. The I think she says real version maybe later. We'll see it when we get there. We pop back over to America. Harris goes to the Finch house, and Mama Finch answers the door. Rachel and Papa Finch are all working to try to find Brian. Papa Finch is super mad and is being very aggressive toward Harris, but it is quickly turned to a pain that we can see that he's feeling, not just him being aggressive toward her, but he's doing it because he's hurting from not knowing where his son is. And this show's just great at demonstrating a full range of emotions. So even though Brian and Piper can't take the NZT they have just yet, together they remember enough about hacking to get things done, and they use the fact that they were able to hack into the guest list of the rich guy who they need his plant to figure out that there is a rich American couple that they can pretend to be at this party. It's funny, so I wrote NZT time because I thought that it was time for them to take the pills because they had figured out who they were going to portray. Although that was not the case. Not yet, anyway. Brian is having second thoughts. He and Piper have had a great week without NZT. And so he thinks maybe they can forget all about this and have a happy life just as themselves. Piper says, together? Piper questions Brian's thought process. She says, none of this week was real. We can't pretend the world we got sucked into isn't real. Piper takes her NZT and tells Brian, you matter now. That is hard, but we get a say in how this NZT affects the world. Harsh Piper. That thing I couldn't remember is Piper saying us off NZT are the lesser versions of us. And this is real. Me on NZT is the real me. And the real me needs the real you. It's just really great writing. It shows how there is a contrast between the two characters, and I like it a lot. Now, it is NZT time, legitimately. Brian takes his NZT pill. At the big party, Brian is calling out Piper for sounding like Edward Mara with her greater good talk, which is, a great shout because she is sounding a lot like him, but as she puts it, you on NZT, your focus changes. We pop back over to America where Naz is giving Harris a hard time because she requested time off, and and Naz knows that Harris only is requesting time off so that she can try and find Brian because Rebecca Harris blames herself. Harris is thinking Brian is going through what her dad went through with, drug stuff. But we know that is not even close to what Brian's going through, and his time is very unique to him. Speaking of unique and unique to him specifically, me being the him in this story, if you would like to help support me on my unique journey, there is a link in the description of this video that will take you to where you can pick up a copy of my 68-page graphic novel. There are multiple cover options. There are hats and shirts and posters, all kinds of great things linked in the description of this video, so that with your support there can be additional stories, and yeah, I appreciate your help. Yeah, it's funny that Harris was worried about Brian being a junkie because he's not being a junkie. He's being a complete show-off. At this party, he is making everybody the audience to his personal show. And, well, it's funny because he's also the star of the actual show. And the thing is that he's doing this. He's being the star of the show because Piper is in the mansion trying to steal what they need to create the side effect blocker. But unfortunately, Piper once again is caught trying to steal from the rich dude, or the rich Russian. This time, NZT Piper seems like she may get away, but the guard she assaulted has told on her. He walkied to his partner, and I don't think she's getting away. Yep, Brian has been captured. His Game of Thrones buddy shows up and yells at him. Good news is Piper used the Game of Thrones fan to get Brian free. It's crazy that Piper and Brian are talking about the future because, just moments ago he was locked up. Just a short time ago she was locked up. It's just, I enjoy that they both have that bright, optimistic outlook on things. While they're talking about the future, Brian wants Piper to come back home with him, but she can't because Edward Mora and the FBI, everybody perceives Piper to be dead, and so she can't go home. There's a big reveal before the conclusion of the episode where Jared Sands gets a text showing that Brian is with Piper, and that, it really just ruins things because it shows that he's not really with them, and that he didn't kill her like that Edward Morrow wanted. Before the episode is over, Rachel Finch shows up to the FBI to talk to Rebecca Harris. Rebecca is surprised by this due to how aggressive the patriarch of the Finch family was toward her. But Rachel says that if Brian trusts you enough to reach out while he's away, then it means I can trust you. And so she describes the undercover agent who was at Brian's, I want to say apartment, but whatever they call it, safe house. Yeah, there we go, safe house. And immediately, Rebecca Harris pops up a picture of Jared Sands, and this was a nuts episode, a very spectacularly nuts episode. I give it a 6 out of 5. Not only does Jared Sands now know that Piper isn't dead and that Brian's not with him and Mara, but now Rebecca knows that Sands is a big part of whatever's going down with Brian. So a lot of developments here, a lot of changes, and I look forward to seeing Brian back in America and where we go from here on the continuation of the Wednesday Rewind with Limitless, the TV show. Come back on Friday for Alpha Entertainment Worldwide, the pop-in episode, and come back on Monday where we're going to have an animation celebration for the Super Mario Brothers movie that is out now. That one was hard. I didn't know if it was an animation celebration or current critique or what it was, because it's kind of a little bit of both. But yeah, thank you, and come back next Wednesday as we continue down the Wednesday Rewind. Later.